Good afternoon. My name is Trish Erzfeld. I am the Perry County Heritage Tourism Director for my community. And Perry County experienced both the solar eclipses of 2017 and 2024. We represent many rural areas across the United States by our land size, our resident population, and our resources, because they're all very important when trying to plan a large-scale event such as a total solar eclipse. Oh, there we go. In 2016, when we started talking to our community about being within the path of totality, some of the people kind of knew what we were talking about, and others really had no idea. When I was trying to create excitement about the event and saying things like, the day will turn into night, you'll see stars and planets during the day, and this will happen exactly on this day at this specific time, and it's going to last for this many minutes and this many seconds. People were like, so how do you really know that? It was very mind-boggling to them, to many of them, that science can calculate a total solar eclipse. So I met with some skepticism with my community and had never experienced a total solar eclipse before. This event was unbeknownst to them, and it was at that point that we really realized that we had to lean into the rarity of the event, and even more how much rarer it was going to be for Perry County, because we were going to experience 2 solar eclipses in 7 years. So there was a lot of educating that we had to do. What made it rare for our community, how to wear solar eclipse glasses. And I knew that the more that they learned, the more that they would get excited, the more that they would get involved in our planning. That was going to help me. But more importantly, the more that they knew, the more they would have a better solar eclipse experience. So I've already fast forward to the next slide. So any large scale event takes more than one person. You need a task force, and that was probably the best advice that I was given when I started my planning. So this is a list of our professionals on my local task force. It really does take a network of people within your city, your town, or your community. That's police, fire, emergency management. And I'm here to say that we have really great people in these positions. They all are uniquely skilled and trained in their position, and they take their jobs very serious because that's what they were trained for. Serious matters, to come to our rescue in fires and accidents, disaster, not party planning. Because isn't that what we were trying to do? Planning for the total solar eclipse experience. We had watch parties, festivals, concerts, speaker series, and it really sounded like a good time. Perry County has a population of 18,000 people. Our largest city, Perryville, is 8,500 residents. And in 2017, we more than doubled our county's population. And in 2024, we saw nearly 57,000 people that came to experience 4 minutes and 5 seconds of totality. If there was one thing that we learned, it's that there's a very thin line between community planning and disaster control. Communities are accustomed to preparing for weather disasters such as floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, but why all the hype behind eclipses? I had to have some very real conversations with some of my task force members who weren't totally on board with our planning. They either weren't attending our meetings, or when they did attend, they were just sitting there. So I had to figure out and find a way what was causing this. So I really believe that their actions came from, one, not understanding what a total solar eclipse was and not wanting to admit that. It could have been that the person, being me, providing the information was the local tourism director. So I wasn't a scientist, and I wasn't a part of the emergency management group. So what were my qualifications in leading this group? And then third, Again, they really didn't want to be embarrassed if this thing called the total solar eclipse really didn't happen. So my message was pretty simple to them. Typically, the tourism director isn't the leader of a task force such as this. This was not a position that I applied for. I didn't even volunteer for it. But sometimes I tell my community, sometimes your leaders come to you in least unexpected ways. But there are people within your community that are willing to take on the challenge to better their community. They could be teachers, business people, or even volunteers that are very well connected with your community. Please accept their help, because it's not always the person with the title that's going to take the reins. I also let them know that I was relying on them to identify resources available in our planning. Again, I wasn't part of the EMS world, so how could the resources that they have help our group? And also I was relying on them to identify potential problems in the scopes of their work. I needed to know how many people were going to be too many people coming into my city. We really needed to know how many planes we could land at our airport before we had to turn pilots away. And I even asked them if at some point, if we lose cell service, how were they going to communicate with their community? And then I finally let them know that I wasn't going to let up on the gas. I was going to work very hard to provide a great eclipse experience for not only my residents, but the thousands of people that were going to come into our community. So if I'd done my job really well, they had better be prepared to do their jobs really well. And it was at that point that our task force started communicating and talking about the what ifs. What if downtown was gridlocked and we had a house fire on the other side of town? What if Main Street got clogged and we needed an ambulance because of a heart attack? And we can still party plan, but we still needed to make sure that we could service our community. And it was through this eclipse disaster that they really were more relatable to this event. For both the 2017 and the 2024 total solar eclipses, we experienced clear skies and unforgettable totality. We had educational programs, we had festivals, we had watch parties. We inspired budding scientists, lifelong learners, and yes, our party planners. But more importantly, in January of 2025, we experienced an ice storm that devastated our county. 2 months later, we had an EF2 tornado with maximum winds up to 135 miles an hour that damaged or destroyed 142 homes in Perryville, including our local high school. But we saw that our community come together using some of the same tactics that we used in planning our eclipse event. Now, our EMS people, they were doing what they were trained to do, and they were phenomenal. But our community then knew where they could also fit in to help. And we're also seeing more public education and informational programs for weather, similar to what we had when we brought in folks to speak about the total solar eclipse. So I'm here to tell you that the techniques to connect and inform people can help build or structure a community for both good and bad events. Thank you.